Tonight on PM Express, a conversation with a man that brought the NPP and the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, to power in 2016. He was the campaign manager for the Nana Addo 2016 campaign team. By the way, he's been reappointed to lead the campaign for the 2020 elections. I'm sure by now you know I'm talking about the almighty Peter Manu. Good to see you. I mean, it's been a while. Refreshing to see you.
Good to see you too, Asha.
What have you been up to? I mean, it's been a long time since we saw you.
Oh, I've been around, except that we have not crossed paths lately. But I've been very much around and alive and kicking.
I'm very grateful that you made time out of your busy schedule. I mean, this week has been very busy for the NPP, partly because on Saturday you're having your primaries. All set for the primaries?
Yes. The party has already done primaries for the orphan constituencies, 106 constituencies. We are now up for 168 constituencies where we have sitting members of parliament. So it's something we've done before, and we are now going to do for the sitting MPs. It's a game, it's a competition, and we believe in internal competition, which is also enshrined in Article, I think, 55 of the 1992 Constitution, which says that parties' internal organizations must conform to internal democracy. And that's exactly what the NPP is doing.
Now, leading up to this primaries, there have been some grievances. I mean, people say they've been disqualified because of, not based on merit, but because of, some say, elimination by rough tactics. You're the chairman of the appeals committee. What were some of the complaints you had to deal with?
I think we have rules and regulations governing any elections. In the NPP as well, our internal elections are governed by the party's constitution, the national constitution, and the party's rules and regulations. So if people fall foul of any of these regulations, constitutions, etc., they cannot blame anybody. In any case, you signed to become a candidate knowing very well that the ultimate decision to partake in the competition rests with the National Executive Committee after you've gone through all the processes. So if you are found wanting for one or two reasons according to the rules, then you may be asked to step aside for this primary session. Maybe another 4 years, you can come back.
So there was no any foul play, just to make sure that some MPs go unopposed?
If people have been given the opportunity to be vetted, after vetting, if there are any reasons that you do not go with the decisions of the vetting committee, you have the opportunity to appeal. Or if the vetting committee did the wrong thing, anybody outside who is a member of the party can also appeal. It comes to the appellate body. We invite you, we invite the constituency executives, the regional executives. Mind you, parliamentary elections are purely local elections. That's why even the Electoral Commission, the final results of parliamentary elections are declared at the constituency level. They are not declared in Accra. So if you want to partake in a constituency primaries or elections, the local party must have some hand or know-how in how you are selected or appointed or elected. So we give opportunity for the local party, the regional party, to come, as it were, to answer a few questions about why they refuse to endorse you or otherwise, or if there is a complaint or a petition from a party member against the decision of the vetting committee. We also invite anybody to come in as a witness. We go through all this, and eventually it is the National Executive Committee of the party that has the final say. And the National Committee has met. The National Council has met. And they have made a final decision. And mind you, in the constitution of the party, the New Patriotic Party, we have duties of a member. And one of the duties of a member is to uphold decisions of the party. To publicly uphold decisions of the party. So if the National Executive has taken a decision, I think if you are a true member of the party who understands the tenets of the Constitution, you have to abide by it as stated in the Constitution.
And if you don't?
Well, if you don't, sanctions may be applied. Sanctions may be applied.
What are some of the sanctions?
Oh, sanctions can be anything. It can be suspension, it can be whatever. You know, some people went to some of the rivers to do all manner of deities and calling on the gods to punish some people. They have been disciplined not to take part in the primaries. If they are candidates or if they are delegates, they cannot cast their vote. These are punishments.
And if they are just supporters, card-bearing members?
You can be, if you are a card-bearing member, your membership can be suspended.
And have you had to do that?
Well, it is the discipline. We don't do that by stroke of a pen. You go through the constitutional processes, refer the matter to the disciplinary committee, who will make the appropriate findings and submit their report to either the constituency or regional executive committee, as the case may be, before a final decision is made. So there are processes.
Let's look at the bigger picture. 5 months into the 2020 elections, are you feeling the heat yet?
Well, Ghana, I think we have long periods for campaigning, okay? And I remember that the Ghana Bar Association has expressed misgivings about our long periods of campaigning. In other jurisdictions, like our own Nigeria, Kenya, etc., it's 6 weeks. In UK, it's 6 weeks. But you must distinguish pre-election campaign from campaign and post-election campaign. So when you don't even have candidates, when you haven't filed nomination with the Electoral Commission, because as of now, the Electoral Commission has not invited political parties and independent candidates to come and file nominations. So who are you campaigning for? So in other jurisdictions, I remember recently a friend of mine on Twitter asked me, why are you opening your campaign for such a long period of time? Because in their locality, it's only a matter of 6 weeks, maximum 2 months to elections. So if you say the campaign is having a toll, it means you haven't done much work at the pre-election campaign level. And if you are going into an internal election to elect parliamentary candidates, it's part of the pre-election campaign. But if you start the razzmatazz, the rallies, the whatever, the door-to-door, then you are in the main campaign season, which to me is still long in Ghana as the Ghana Bar Association.
At what point does it get heated?
I think that normally when the nominations are filed, then you know that you are officially a candidate of the party. Because it's at that time that the General Secretary of the party will write to the Electoral Commission that Aisha Ibrahim is a candidate of the party for so-and-so constituency. If that letter doesn't go, you are not recognized as a candidate of the party for the constituency.
Interesting there. But you were campaign manager in 2016. You've been reappointed to lead the party going into the 2020 elections. But are you going to deploy the same strategy that led you to that great success? I mean, great, unprecedented victory margin in the Fourth Republic. I mean, how do you seek to better that record?
Aisha, every election is unique. The election of 2016 is different from the election of 2020. Equally, the election of 2012 was different from the election of 2016. So you must look at the environment, the electoral environment, the economy, the candidate, the manifesto, what you have achieved, where you took it from. All these will come into play in this election. Unlike in 2016, when we were in opposition and we were attacking with what we would do when we get the opportunity to serve this country. Now that we were given the mantle, what have we been able to achieve? And where did we take the country from in terms of the economy, in terms of jobs, in terms of agriculture, in terms of education, environment, security, etc. So you look at this and match it against where you took it from and where you have come from. And you look at, like I said also, the electoral affairs, the electoral arena. Now there is this voter registration. What are you going to do? Are you going to take part or not? I remember in 2016, the media used to ask me, so if they don't give you a new register, what are you going to do? And I wish today they asked me the same question. So this should tell you that every election is unique. So I'm not going to use 2016 as a yardstick of measuring what I'm going to do. But I'm going to look at the dynamics of what has changed from between 2016 to today on the electoral field, on the economy, on the performance of the president, on the performance of the government in all aspects of our life, on the voter, who is the heartbeat of the campaign. What dynamics have changed in the voting aspects? For example, the youth, the aged. What is the difference between 2016 and now? You need to know. Where are the population shifts to as at now? Because I can tell you now, some population in certain constituencies have increased compared to 20. You need to know all these. So it is not the same game as was in 2016. Certain dynamics have changed. But you need to also improve on areas that you did well in 2016. You have to do your strength and opportunities analysis and look at where you failed and try and do well in those areas. And the areas that you did extremely well, you strongly maintain it.
In 2016, there was no COVID-19. With the COVID-19 pandemic, the world as we know has changed now. How has this affected, and how do you reckon this will shape this year's campaign? Will it be business as usual?
You see, I am happy that Ghanaians, led by President Akufo-Addo, have come to accept that the elections must come on. I'm saying this because I know of other countries where, because of COVID-19, elections have been postponed. But we want to deepen our democracy, and any attempt to postpone the election would have made people uneasy about where we are heading to as far as our democracies are concerned. Many of the dictators have taken pride in the COVID-19 to postpone their elections. But our current president, with his belief in democracy, said no, whether there's a chance in the constitution to do that or not, we must stick to the date and have the elections. What that means is that you must adopt your tactics to suit the conditions, health-wise, of the COVID-19. What are the WHO and Ghana Health Service protocols? The campaign must move to, as it were, do every action under the WHO and Ghana Health Service protocols. You must have a mask on. You must use sanitizers. You must do social distancing and educate people on the COVID-19 and how to prevent it. We are ready for that. We have bought masks for even our internal elections on Saturday to prevent people. We have also introduced what we call queue controllers. You know, queue controllers are people who are employed just to get people to space out for the social distancing. So their business will be, as people queue, to ensure that the social distancing is maintained under the WHO and Ghana Health Service guidelines.
Without key rallies, I mean campaign rallies, without meeting people directly face to face, how exactly are you going to send your message across?
You see, NPP is a huge party. Even next week, we are holding a conference, a Zoom conference, on campaigning under COVID. And I am a facilitator in Africa. So using the various technologies to campaign is something, that's why we have digital directorate under our campaign. We have the use of the Facebook, live streaming, story, whatever. We have WhatsApp messages. Those who cannot even type can use voicemail to WhatsApp to their people. We also have the one-on-one with the social distancing to send our message to the voter. And we're able to do this because the party has structures in all the 33,000 plus polling stations. We have 5-member polling station executives who are well trained with our messages on the achievements of the government under Nana Akufo-Addo, where he took over from at their locality, at the regional and national levels, which they are supposed to meet the voter one-on-one. And I can tell you, there are television adverts, there are billboard adverts, but the best method of reaching out to the voter is the one-on-one contact, which is what we are doing. So we have that, and we will not abandon traditional radio, Joy FM, etc., because people also listen to the radio very well. The television is also there. But mass rallies and the likes that we used to do is out of question. We are not going to do that. So that's how we are going to send our messages to the voter, who is the heartbeat of the campaign.
At a press briefing recently, Mr. Manu claimed that the NPP will win power based on its records. When I come back from this break, we will interrogate that record and also look at the new voter register, which has generated lots of controversy leading up to the 2020 elections. Stay with us. Welcome back to PM Express, and we're speaking with a man who made the president in 2016, and I call him the most powerful man because he can make and unmake. He did that in 2016 and he seeks to do that in 2020. In your recent press conference, Mr. Manu, you claimed that the NPP will win power based on the records. Let's interrogate the records now. And I would like us to start with infrastructure, one of the most hotly contested areas leading up into these elections. On infrastructure, the government official website that tracks the delivery of your promises says you made 45 promises with regards to infrastructure. With 5 months going into the elections, you've delivered only 5. Why do you want people to give you the mandate with such poor performance?
Infrastructure Let me tell you how campaigns are done. First, you start with what we call a research or a baseline study. That will let you know the thinking or the thoughts of the voter, their hopes and their fears. So out of that, you'll be able to know which areas the voters are comfortable, that their hopes and aspirations have been satisfied, and those that they fear that nothing good has been done. So I am telling you, I have done that. And there's a tracking. Even when you have done that, you need to move on to track from time to time because the voters are not static in their decision making. If we say that infrastructure, it is what the voters have informed us. Okay, and mind you, at the last budget speech of the Minister of Finance, based on the President's State of the Nation address, roads were given special mention, and it was touted as the year of the roads.
Mentioning doesn't mean delivered. You have just 5 months into the election.
Mentioning, and then the finance minister coming to back it up with a budget. And on the ground, the contractors busy working. And if you go into the constituencies, or if you do the research or the baseline study, as I'm saying, you will hear what the voters are saying. I'm not going to mind what the ordinary opponents of X are saying.
Some will
but what the voters matter.
The contractors are on the way working because we are getting into another elections.
The contractors have been working, but the speed, the momentum has gathered enough speed. And it is because now from the research, the voters are saying, hey, you've done so well, marvelously well in education. From the research.
Okay.
From the research, you've done marvelously well in education. You need to come up a little bit in infrastructure. Yes, and that's what we are doing. Yeah, so we don't just go on our own. We must be responsive to what the voters want. And I have said it the fourth time, that the voter is the heartbeat of the campaign.
And the voters say they don't want roads?
That's what I'm saying, they want.
And if you couldn't,
and that's what we are doing.
If you couldn't put those roads in order for 3.5 years, what makes you think you
but
can
who
do
tells
that
you that for 3.5 years?
5 months
who
into the election?
Do you know what goes into a road construction, Aisha?
Tell me.
You have to put in a tender. First, you have to do a survey, you have to do a tender, you have to do tender evaluation, and whoever wins will have to move to site.
So that took you 3.5 years to do?
It didn't take us 3.5 years. We've been working. We've been working. I can show you a lot of roads that we have done in East Legon here, in Boranhafo, in Western Region, in Ashanti, and all over. And all over. So I do not think that there should be any argument over roads, that now the NPP government haven't come out boldly to state that this is the year of roads. We are making roads our priority. And there's nothing wrong with that.
So you are assuring us that in less than 5 months you would fulfill the 45 promises you made, in which you've delivered only 5 months?
I'm not accepting that
But
statement.
that's on government's official website for monitoring your own promises.
No. I'm not accepting that. Because I was at the Kumasi University of Science and Technology when the Vice President delivered a speech and a presentation on our achievements, which ended up at 78%. I was
Definitely.
there.
I mean overall achievement. But we're talking about infrastructure. And if you go on the website now, that's the figure you see there.
I don't think so. I would doubt that.
It's
because
there.
I was also there in Kumasi.
It's there.
And what is happening now, what is happening now on the ground, people are very happy that the roads are being constructed. In any case, it's not only roads that make up infrastructure. The hospitals are being built. The Confanoche Hospital, which has been abandoned for 40-something years, is being put back into shape. The president went there to inaugurate that works to be started. If you go to other districts, the new districts, they are going to have their hospitals. If you ask me about education, various infrastructure in the form of dormitories, classrooms, etc., have been built, and more teachers. And teachers and resources, they are all part of the most important infrastructure that you need. That is also being considered. And that's why I was telling you in the research, everybody said, oh, education, we give it to you. Peace is also needed for even everything to come about. In 4 or 5 days ago, when the World Peace Index came, Ghana was number 3 in Africa, apart from Mauritius and Botswana. Okay, so we are doing well as a government led by President Akufo-Addo.
Generally, you tag yourself at what, 78%.
That's
the
right.
NDC says it will give you 14%. And it explains that you've given over 681 promises. Out of that, you fulfilled only 86 of those promises. How do you respond to this tag?
You see, it is what we have categorized as intellectual dishonesty. NDC is being dishonest with how they arrive at the 680 something. Because if you have a vision as a chapter on lazy agriculture, the vision of agriculture is to do ABC, then you come to the key areas of how to achieve that. Then they will pick all of that as manifesto promises. I don't know how they arrive at that. I don't know how they arrive at that. So we are saying that they are being dishonest intellectually in arriving at the 680 something, and by so doing, give your vision 0, planting for food and just 0, dams 0. That's not the way to go.
But sincerely, some of your key promises: 1 district, 1 factory, 1 constituency, $1 million, and the others that you gave. Sincerely, have you been able to fulfill all of that?
Aisha, if you are a businessman and if you have run a factory before, I have run a factory, I know what it takes. Even to secure a facility alone can take you 2 years. I can tell you. Okay, this government did not promise that we are going to build state-owned factories. No, how can we be doing that?
What did you promise?
We promised to facilitate, because we believe in the private sector. We believe in individuals, corporate bodies, doing their own business in an atmosphere of peace and security. That's what we believe in.
Okay.
So we do not in any way believe that our government is going to do what has failed in the previous governments of Kwame Nkrumah, building state factories and state companies.
So why are you not getting the private sector to do so?
We are doing it. But like I'm saying, it takes, if you want to build a factory and set it running, a lot of things have to go in. You need to do a feasibility study. You need to do the market study. You need to do a lot of things.
Didn't you take these into consideration before promising the electorates?
What did we promise? We promised that we're going to facilitate. And that's what's going on. Some have started.
Every district has a factory?
Oh, so you think it will take 1 year for every district to have a factory?
You've done 3.5
years. If we haven't done anything, many people are grateful that we have prompted the private sector to open up to look for investment in industrial sector, which is good.
But you didn't communicate that to the people, that it will take you more than 4 years to do that.
I don't know. You see, government is, if I may call it, a continuum. Okay? But business is also a continuum. You start a business. I know when you go to other places, you will see a business, Lockwood, 1896, which means the Lockwood business was started in 1896, and the children and great-great-grandchildren have powered it up to 2000, up to where we are now. So we must encourage the private sector as a government to build and support them. And that is exactly what the New Patriotic Party government under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is doing. But mind you, we have been able to bring some very laudable projects. We did not promise sugar making when there was no sugar plantation to feed the factory. No, we did not.
So how many of the factories have you built so far?
I can say that there are about 55 of them running. Okay. And some of them in progress. Some of them there's work in progress.
At where exactly?
If you give me the time, but I know that there's Shama, there is this juice in Ikumfi, there is iron rods in Kumasi, there is toilet roll in Accra here. I have visited, you know. And then also there were some factories which had died. They had collapsed. So if through one district, one factory, we were able to revive and reactivate them, it's part of it, because they were dead. And I can tell you that this fruit juice factory in Sawam is being reactivated, Aztec. So there are a lot of them who have benefited from the facilitation and other support from the government to bring their factories.
The NDC says the last time they checked, it was not one village, one dam. It was actually one village, a lot of wells.
You see, if you have the thoughts, and the thought will come when you study what the voter wants, and you design something to suit what the voter wants. That's number one. NDC has governed this country more than any government. They never thought of one village, one dam. So they must shut up. That's all I'll tell them. They must shut up.
But do we have the dams?
You have the dams.
In all the villages?
You can't have the dams in all the villages, admittedly.
Which villages specifically?
Oh, I cannot mention all of them, but I know, and I've seen, and I've spoken to the Minister for Social, MSDF, Social Development, and Mrs. the MP for Kaswa, or what's the name of the constituency? Howard Kumsen, his outfit. They are doing a lot of one village, one dam. But we should not allow propaganda to turn us away from what benefits the voters are getting out.
You sincerely believe the NDC is doing propaganda with this?
Oh, you don't know? They are the master of propaganda in this world. Yes, that's their job. That's what they are doing. But I can tell you, the voters down there, and that's what they will show when it comes to 2020 election.
Let's talk about COVID-19. And the NDC once again says, the COVID-19 has exposed your inability to deal with the health infrastructural gaps. A case in point is the University of Ghana Medical Center. The NPP vilified the former administration over that facility. Now, that facility and others serve as the go-to facilities for your COVID-19 interventions. In fact, recently the Minister of Health himself has been a beneficiary of the Mahama-led administration investment in health. You can't disagree on this, can you?
Let me tell you. The COVID, when it started blowing from China, nobody ever envisaged that it will come to our shores. So for our government to be able to even locate places where they can immediately, under emergency, put our COVID-19 patients and give the necessary infrastructure. I do not think that building a hospital per se is the end of good health. You need the equipment.
Is it not
you
a
need the
means to
manpower.
an end?
Don't you think that, or don't you know, aren't you aware that the NPP government also added so many facilities to the infrastructure that was there? And that was why the facility could not be opened as early as people were prompting us to do? No. Because if you build the infrastructure, the building alone, there are a lot of things that needed to be done. A lot of things, equipment, technology, whatnot. And these will make the work of the health workers much easier, and they will appreciate and love to work when they have the equipment and the technology that go with it. And that's exactly what we have done. And if an emergency has come and we are able to locate and put equipment and services there for use of Ghanaians, you are saying what? That is wrong. I'm telling you, this country, led by Nana Akufo-Addo, has been touted worldwide as one of the best countries in ability to manage the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm telling you.
On what basis?
All aspects. All aspects. All aspects. Healthcare, mobilization, testing, tracing, all manner. In Africa, tracing, we are about the third. And when we trace, we are able to find out those who have gotten the virus and then isolate them and bring them the necessary infrastructure, like to various infrastructure, health infrastructure like UGC, University of Ghana Medical Center, you're talking about. So if we are acknowledged internally and externally as doing the best as far as COVID-19 is concerned, what are you talking about, Aisha?
Would you give the Mahama administration some credit for making it a bit easier for you to manage COVID-19?
They are making it easier, perhaps, and maybe I'll be going out of question if I go and answer questions that don't bother on the substance of the interview. We are talking about healthcare and COVID-19. It didn't happen on Mahama's time. Why should I go and answer questions
but
about that?
He put up facilities.
Oh, if you say that, then we will go from 1957 Gagisberg era.
So you won't give them.
When Gagisberg put up Kolebu, then we should give credit to Gagisberg. When President Kufuor put up this, we should give up this. When Buzia did, if you go to Shaman, the Shaman hospital was put up by Buzia. You see, if you want to be a leader or a government, you must know that you have a responsibility to the country.
So you won't give them
so
credit.
Don't be bragging that I did this, I did this. You did this. The people were not satisfied with it and they voted against you. You think you did the right thing? You think you did the right thing?
So they don't.
You are taking the voters as fool. You don't take the voters as fool. Don't take the vote. And then let's go to Kolebu and give credit to Gagisberg and start from that era and come down. Because the NDC has spent the best times of Ghana's political scenery. They have gotten since 1981 or so. How many years? Oh, many years. What can they say, or can they point their hands to? Huh?
And as Mr. McMahon rightly puts it, the campaign will get heated as the time goes on. We have about 5 months to go into the elections. It's getting heated up, especially with the new voters' ID card. The Electoral Commission says it is not using the old voter ID card, neither is it also accepting the birth certificate as requirements for the new voter registration. When I come back from this break, I'm going to find out from Mr. McMahon what he thinks about it and also look into issues of vigilantism as we go into the 2020 elections. Please stay with us. Welcome back to PM Express, and my guest is still Mr. Peter Manu, who is campaign manager for the Nana Addo 2020 election, and he's been my guest. I'm really privileged to have you, Mr. Manu. I just want to gauge your mood on this one. You've seen the back and forth with the new voters register. Now the EC has the go-ahead to do the new voters register, but it says it is not accepting the old voter ID, neither is it accepting the birth certificate. Some say it's the source document for all the other documents they are going to be accepting for the new registration. What do you make of this? What's actually
Are you talking about the birth certificate, or you are talking about the voter ID card, or both?
Both.
Well, for the birth certificate to start with, it is not an identification document. You see, when we talk about a voter, that's why you added the word ID, voter identification card. You see, if you are identifying somebody as a citizen of Ghana, it is not a birth certificate, which does not have a picture of the person. So anybody can bring in any other person's birth certificate and claim that I am Aisha Ibrahim, so register me. Is that what we want? No, absolutely no. So you have to go through a citizenship identification. And that is what the national identification provides. Citizenship identification. Now, with regard to the old voter ID, I think the story has been told and told several times. The Electoral Commission takes its power to make constitutional instruments from the Constitution under Article 51, I think, which is the Electoral Commission shall make constitutional instrument for the organization of voters register, elections and referendum, etc. The Fourth Republic started in 1992 with a CI 12. CI 12 was changed eventually to CI 72. Then CI 72 was changed eventually to CI 91. And CI 91 is changed to CI 126. It is because we don't live in a static world. We live in a dynamic world, and our eyes keep opening day by day. When CI 12 was enacted for the 1992 elections, there was nothing like identification of citizenship. Later they realized that there was a need. So in CI 72, it was changed. But the form that you fill to become an eligible voter, and under which you are given a voter ID card, which is called Form 1A, there was no role on it to determine the kind of identification document you are submitting for your voter ID card. There was no role. So people used National Health Insurance card as an identification document to get enrolled on the voters register. Abu Ramadan and Evans Nimakun went to the Supreme Court seeking clarification that the use of the National Health Insurance card for voter registration is unconstitutional, because anybody can register as for the National Health Insurance card without being a citizen of Ghana. And the court agreed with them and asked the Electoral Commission to go and retrieve or find out those who used the National Health Insurance card. But because there was no role on the form to determine that someone that Aisha used National Health Insurance card to register as a voter, so his National Health Insurance card number, so and so is written. There was no way for them to determine. So it's mixed up with those who went with passport, those who went with guarantees, who went with what. It's like Gary mixed with whatever, sand. How are you going to retrieve that? It was impossible. So we must start from a clean slate. A clean slate means everybody who has a citizenship identification card now, which is National Health Insurance, passport, driver's license, and 2 people guaranteeing you for up to a maximum of 10 can register and have a voter ID card.
And don't you think limiting us to only those documents you mentioned would sincerely disenfranchise millions of Ghanaians?
Aisha, I'm afraid it will not. Aisha, I'm afraid it will not. And let me repeat again, I'm afraid it will not. I'm saying this because in the last registration in 2019, limited registration, which was done in 2019, using this CI-91, 1.2 million plus people registered. Out of the 1.2 million plus people who registered, 1.1 plus people used the guarantee system, which was 95.1%. 95.1% use the guarantee system. It's only 4.9% who use passport, ID card, or voter ID card. So what's the big deal? What's the big deal? People use a large percentage, 95%, use guarantee system to get on the register because they have relationship who could vouch that they are citizens of Ghana. And the relationship are also warned that if you make any arrangement to guarantee somebody, which is not true, then you stand the chance to bear the consequences because you have given false information. So you must have relationship, either parents, siblings, spouse, guardian, or others, to guarantee you. And 95% did that in 2019. How come that in 2020 we won't get guarantors? More so when the National Identification Authority has issued about 16 million cards. What is the problem? Do you want other people who are not Ghanaians and have managed to get our National Health Insurance card and have already registered as voter in the CI 72 era to come and register again?
You have evidence with regards to that?
Oh, but even when the Electoral Commission was given the opportunity by the Supreme Court to go and clean it, they came up. I don't know how they managed to get that figure because there was no row. They even came up with 68,000 or so. And in a country where 40,000 can win an election, 68,000 is a number you must watch.
Well, some elements within the inter-party resistance against the voters register are threatening of violence if the EC goes ahead with the new voter registration. And for instance, Bernard Mona, to quote him, he says, "We will kill each other." How do you respond to such threats?
That's criminal intent. That's criminal intent. And I think that the police has invited him. I'm not a security officer, but I think the security officers are dealing with him, and I want us to leave it at us.
But you have said, basically, that you don't need the new voters register to win elections, and that you win the elections based on your records. Why are you so aggressive in pushing for a new voters register, as much as some will describe you now as the mouthpiece of the Electoral Commission, louder, perhaps crying more than the bereaved?
I laugh at this question. People saying we are speaking for the Electoral Commission. I'm not the spokesperson for the Electoral Commission. They have their own communications department, and Mrs. Sylviano is duly in charge of that. Nevertheless, you know that from 2012 to date, we have been consistent that we need a new register. And at various fora, we have not hidden this message. So it is us, our view. If it has coincided with what the Electoral Commission is saying, fine. But it does not mean we speak for the Electoral Commission. They have their own PR department. We are saying we want a new register. Nevertheless, I am saying that a new register or not, we'll go into the election, mind you. And we'll go into the election and win. And this is the same thing that happened in 2016. Because you see, a register is critical for an election because you get the voter on the register. In 2016, when the late Justice Crab panel met political parties at Alisa Hotel to look at this whole new register saga, we presented our case. I remember I led the NPP team. We said we wanted a new register. The NDC and other people, other parties said they didn't want it. Some people who said they wanted it in 2016 have changed their stand. They are entitled to that. But that would not, and I must say again, that would not prevent me from going into the election come December because you didn't give me any register. What? You must know other means of covering yourself, and which I'm not prepared to disclose. In the same way I didn't disclose, because there are other means within the law, lawful means of determining. The Crab panel at that time came up with a report which stated that 583,000 people are believed to have died on the register and are still on the register. So coming from 2016 to 2020, I can extrapolate it to maybe 1 million people who are dead and on the register. I have a duty to ensure that nobody uses those names or those identities to vote if we are to use the old register. But mind you, even if we are to use the old register, what happens to the over 1 million people who have turned 18 plus?
Limited
voters registration. It has to come on.
Yes.
And what happens to that?
Why are we not opting for that?
Well, it is not for me. If you opt for that, you have to add it to the existing one. But mind you, the people who were managing the system, the voter management system, says that the technology and the equipment and the system life has come to an end.
Are you saying that the register that brought you into power was flawed?
Aha, I like this question. Why is it that in 2016, the NDC primaries, they went with a register that elected Mahama with over 90-something%. But when they were coming into 2020 elections, they changed the register.
Those are internal matters. If the NPP decides to change their constitution or they want to change the register, that is none of our business.
It is our business. Charity begins from home. You, in your own home, you've changed your register.
Okay.
And you think in Ghana, we cannot change our register. You know why they changed their register?
Tell me.
They claim that NPP people found their way on their register.
Oh, how?
Oh, because that's what they said, because they were doing what they call every member of the party should register to be able, they were doing open primaries. You know, we have open primaries and delegates primaries. Open primary means every member of the party can cast his vote. They did open primaries with a register of members. So they claim that NPP members found their way into the register. And we are saying that Togolese Ivorians, etc., have found our way into the register, and dead people have also found their way on the register.
So the register was flawed in 2016.
Oh, very well so.
And that is the register that brought you into power. If that is the case,
but I have
then
told
what's
you,
the legitimacy of your governance?
Legitimacy, you mean?
Yes.
The legitimacy is that I plucked, and I have told you now that even if we were to go into the 2020 elections with the old register, there are certain areas, gray areas, that we have to pluck from leaking into the system.
So the 2016 elections, you won with a 1 million margin. That's unprecedented. What target are you setting for yourself in the 2020 elections?
1.5 million.
That's an ambitious figure.
I'm an ambitious man. And Nana Akufo-Addo is an ambitious president.
1.5 million?
Yes. And 185 seats in parliament, which is 66%. 66%. So that when we table our bills in parliament, that requires 2/3. We'll be able to push it through for the good of the country.
Mr. McMahon, I wish you all the best in your campaign. And that was the campaign manager for the 2020 Nana Addo campaign team, Peter McMahon. He's the man of the moment. Thank you so much for having us, and thank you so much for watching. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Enjoy the rest of your evening.